just want to start off with reassuring you that it's not your fault. That you're not lazy, you're not paid too much, there's not too many of you, you're not incompetent, your pensions aren't great. It's not your fault at all. You were doing an okay job before, you're doing an okay job now, and nothing has changed other than the banking system has collapsed. And I think it is our first task. I know a number of people have said it, but we do have to nail the blame and the responsibility for why we are in this position. And I don't know if you've noticed, since the collapse took place, the Tories have done a very clever thing that they've shifted. At that time, everyone was saying it's the banks that are to blame. And it's over the last 2 years, every time they say in the media, it is the deficit that we've inherited from the last government. And now somehow, it is the public sector that is to blame that has caused this crisis. And we have to stop that approach and nail the blame.
But we have to understand that what's happening this year is different. The scale of these cuts is unprecedented. This isn't just a quantitative change, it's a qualitative. There are services disappearing that won't be there anymore. This is a one-way street. Once these services are gone, it will be a nightmare trying to rebuild them. This is different than it has been before. There are a huge number of cuts proposed across the council. I'm not going to try and list them all because it would take longer than we have. But I will go into some specifics because there are some specific headline cuts that I think people need to know about. There are cuts in early years services, in the range of services that are available through children's centres. There has been a good deal made in the press of the fact that children's centres will remain open. However, the range of services that families can actually access through them won't be anything like it has been in the past. And it's important to understand that. People are going to be turning up to said children's centres hoping to access all the services, the childcare, the advice and support that they have in the past, and it won't be there. And of course, there are the cuts in care for the elderly and the disabled, and those are an absolute outrage. The council are looking at outsourcing, privatising services that support disabled people, services that support the elderly in terms of re-enablement, allowing elderly people to continue to live in their own homes, in terms of home care and sheltered housing services. Now, I've left on every seat a copy of a petition that Unison is collecting to try to trigger a council debate on the proposals to market test with a view to outsourcing home care services for shelter with extra care schemes. Please, if you can, take these away, get them filled in, get them sent in. And it says to send them into the council. You can, of course, do that. We would actually prefer it, if possible, if you can send it to the Unison address at the top so that we know how many are coming in. But we want to trigger a proper debate on this because we think if there is a proper public debate, it won't happen because the public don't want it, the service users don't want it, council taxpayers don't want it, voters don't want it.
So these are government cuts. I'm hoping that we are going to go into our election emphasising the fact that these are government cuts. It's the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats together that are forcing these cuts on public services across the wall, the NHS, the social care, the council, libraries, schools. We think what is actually going to bring so many diverse people together? It was interesting in the comments on forestry was that people were saying it's the first time SWP and I don't know, was it the Campaign for Rural England have ever come together on a single platform? If you just think of the people that are going to be the victims of the current swathe of cuts roaring through the public sector, think what an alliance we ought to be able to put together of common people. There are the parents whose children's schools are not going to get the improvements, the rebuild that they thought they were going to get. There are the parents of children who are going off to university who are suddenly going to find themselves absolutely up to their ears in horrific levels of debt. There are the elderly and the disabled who I'm waiting for the first batch of wheelchairs to chain themselves to Downing Street, which I suspect will be happening anytime soon, because there is a huge lobby out there of the disability groups who are finding their whole way of life so precariously held together by a battery of support and income that are going to find themselves being pushed to the edge. And if we can't bring all these diverse groups together, as well as the people who are going to lose their jobs, the people whose hours are going to be cut, the people whose wages are going to be cut, there is a huge lobby out there, and we just need to, don't sit and think, don't sit and mollycoddle yourselves, get out there and, I think as the great Jim Hill said, organise. This is what we should be doing. We should be working with our friends and our colleagues, because we are all here. There's all sorts of faces here together tonight, some of whom wouldn't usually sit in the same platforms as each other. But I think we've got a common cause.